I'd like to call the meeting of the Joint Committee on Senate Finance and Assembly Ways and Means to order. Committee Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Here.
Assemblyman Frierson. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Hafen. Assemblywoman Howdegi. Assemblyman Levitt. Assemblywoman Miller. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblyman Roberts. Assemblywoman Titus. Assemblywoman Tolles. Assemblyman Watts. Senator Canizaro. Senator Dennis. Senator Dondero Loop. Senator Goycochea. Senator Hammond. Senator Kekeffer. Senator Ratty. Senator Severs-Gansert. Assemblywoman Carlton. Chair Brooks.
I am here. Thank you. Please mark Senator Kekeffer excused, absent, and mark the others present as they arrive. I'd like to remind everyone that while we as committee members and some staff are here in the committee room, the Zoom meeting is still being hosted for staff and agency representatives to participate remotely. This is due to the current capacity limits on the number of people that can attend committee meetings in person. Those wishing to attend committee meetings in person can register to attend by visiting the legislature's Nellis website. Members of the public wishing to make public comment can continue to call in via telephone. There will be a public comment period at the end of the agenda today. Today, we will be closing the budget for Public Employees Retirement System, or PERS, and we will be closing the two statewide decision units, M100, statewide inflation, and M300, fringe benefits rates adjustment. Lastly, we will be discussing authorizing American Rescue Plan Act funds to fund positions otherwise recommended to be eliminated or held vacant in the 21-23 biennium. And so we will get started with the Public Employees Retirement System.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Sarah Kaufman, Legislative Council Bureau, Fiscal Analysis Division. I will be presenting the closing documents for the Public Employees Retirement System, otherwise known as PERS. PERS provides retirement, disability, and death benefits to long-term public employees. The system is primarily funded with a monthly per capita fee, which you can find on your documents on page 4. The system is not subject to the State Budget Act. While the system is required to submit a proposed budget for inclusion in the executive budget, the Governor's Finance Office does not review or make adjustments to this, but to the budget submittal that is being prepared by this system. And that is particularly important because there are some budget amendments in here that I will be pointing out for all of you. There are two major closing issues. The first major closing issue relates to the continued implementation of a new pension system, which is Decision Unit E710. The executive budget recommended administrative fees of $10.5 million in fiscal year 2022 and $9.2 million in 2023 for the replacement of the system's pension administration system. However, there was a budget amendment that was submitted on February 23rd, 2021, which revised that amount to $5.3 million in fiscal year 2022 and $10.9 million in fiscal year 2023. I would note that the 2019 legislature did approve the system's request for the replacement of the pension administration system, and the 2019 legislature provided authority for $8.2 million in each year of the 2019-2020 biennium for this replacement, and it was estimated at that time that it would take approximately 4.5 years in order to complete the update to the system. Funding for the system replacement was approved by the 2019 legislature to address issues PERS was experiencing in relations to the calculation benefits and fulfilling information requests. You may recall that from the 2009 and 2015 legislative sessions, there was legislation that was passed that added additional tiers to the pension plans that created some complexity in terms of how those pension tiers were calculated. The system indicates that it requires additional information for participating employers that the system did not previously collect, nor had a database structure that supported the storage of that information. And as such, at the time and still currently today, the system is performing those calculations with Excel spreadsheets. So in terms of capacity, the new system would primarily create new calculations for these pension tiers, which is the bulk of what this does, but there is some additional information on pages 4 and 5 that provide for the added features that the system would be providing to the PERS system. Because a request for proposal had not been completed during the time when the 2019 legislature was reviewing this request, the legislature requested a letter of intent directing the system to provide updates to the Interim Retirements and Benefit Committee. And as such, the system submitted a report to the December 16, 2020 IRBC meeting. And in that information, they provided the additional information related to the contract that they signed with Grit Software Ventures, who is the vendor that will be doing the system modernization or the new pension administration system for PERS. That was signed November 19th, 2020. The system would provide payments in 7 phases for a total of $23.5 million and an estimated start time February 23rd of 2021. So just recently they started the process of the new pension administration system. And they anticipate the completion of this to be October 23rd, 2024. You can see on page 5 there is a table that provides a breakdown of the 7 phases that will take place in order to complete the pension administration modernization. And I would note that while the system was budgeted to spend $8.2 million in each year of the 2019-21 biennium to implement the new pension administration system, no funds were spent in 2020, and only about $1.1 million are anticipated to be spent in 2021. Some of the phases will span multiple fiscal years, and so you'll see on page 6 that there is a table at the top that breaks down some of the various phases that will be included over the 2021-23 biennium. I would note that during the RFP process, the system did hire a company called Prevalient to act as their project manager. Prevalient was provided a contract not to exceed $780,000 through June 30th, 2021. And the system is requesting to continue to utilize that contract with Prevalient in the upcoming biennium at a cost of approximately $803,000 in fiscal year 2022 and $827,000 in fiscal year 2023. I would note that there is a 3% escalator within that contract. The project manager will be responsible for pension administration system project oversight, data management project oversight, employer reporting outreach. And I would also note that concurrently as they are updating their system, PERS is also conducting a data cleansing in various areas of the data that they currently have so that when the system is up and running, they have clean data to implement into the new system. As I previously indicated, there was a budget amendment that was submitted, Budget Amendment A214624821, and that was submitted in order to finalize the amounts that would be needed for the 2021-23 biennium related to the new system implementation. On page 7, you'll see a table at the top, and it identifies what was previously requested in agency request and now what is being proposed as part of that new amendment. And so you could see that the top part of the table, there is a breakdown of some of the components related to what is being requested. The bulk of it is the TGRIT software, and that is $3.7 million in fiscal year 2022 and $9.3 million in 2023. I would also note that within the E710 decision unit, there are some requests for standard computer and equipment replacement and upgrades, and those all appear reasonable to staff. To continue monitoring the status of the pension administration system project throughout the 2021-23 biennium, the committee may wish to consider issuing a letter of intent suggesting the system report to the Interim Retirement and Benefits Committee at its annual meeting, the progress as it relates to the pension administration system upgrade. And so the decision for the committee is, does the committee wish to approve administrative fees of $5.3 million in fiscal year 2022 and $10.9 million in fiscal year 2023 as revised in Budget Amendment A214624821 to continue funding the replacement of the system's pension administration system and other various replacement equipment costs? In addition, does the committee wish to issue a letter of intent requesting the system report to the Interim Retirement and Benefits Committee at its annual meeting the status of the system replacement?
Thank you, Ms. Hoffman. Do the committee members have any questions? Assemblywoman Tolles?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that presentation. I'm just curious, I see that in 2019 that we estimated that the system would cost $33.6 million, and we were able to get an RFP back for the final tally was $23.5 million, and I'm just, and maybe we never budgeted that. Maybe it was nothing more than just an estimate, but I was just curious to know if there's some way to get that 10 million back, if we ever put that into a budget in the first place, or was it just an estimate?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Assemblywoman Tolles. That was just an estimate. So there was the estimate of $33.5 million. However, only the $8.2 million was actually provided in 2019 and 2021, and of that amount, only $1.1 million was spent. So essentially what would happen in the PERS budget is that, for example, in 2022, that $8.2 million that wasn't spent just goes right back to the PERS fund. And so that doesn't necessarily then get rolled into the system's expenditures going into the upcoming bienniums. I would note that this is just a piece of the system, and so you all, or the legislators for the 2023 biennium, will see another component to this because it's going to be a 4-year rollout. And so this is just a piece of the funding that will be requested on an ongoing system upgrade.
Thank you so much. And so just a follow-up, do we think that by the end of it all, we'll get back closer to that $33.6 million, or do we think that we'll still stay under the original estimate?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Assemblywoman Tolles. Yeah, so the $33 million estimate wasn't actually an estimate that was based off of an RFP. It was based off of just a nationwide organization that said that this is approximately how much a pension system would cost. And so that's the information that the system had at the time, and so that's what we used. But once they were able to go out to RFP, they received 4 requests for proposal, and they chose to go with TGRIT, which was the $23 million. And as such, that should stay the same unless there are any significant change adjustments, but then that would require contract amendments.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate the clarity.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Senator Sievers-Gansert, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair Brooks. I just want to double check on the project management contract that we have. That was based on the revised amount, the 23 million, not the 33 million, because sometimes those are percentages. Is that accurate? Because it looks like that was in June of 21, and I think we finalized the agreement in February of 21 with the software company.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to Senator Sievers-Gansert. So yes, the contract with the project manager is independent from the actual contract with Tigrit. So there's Prevaliant is the contractor that's doing the project management. And so they had come into that contract in 2021 with Prevaliant prior to the actual RFP being accepted. And so now what's being requested is just basically a 3% increase in the amount that Prevaliant was being paid in 2021 into 2022 and 2023.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that their contract reflected the lower amount, and I don't know that the scope changed, but sometimes they're percentages of contracts, and so it was based on the lower, the 23 million versus the 33 million?
For the record, Sarah Kaufman, Legislative Council Bureau. I don't believe that the amounts that were provided for Prevaliant were tied to the projected amounts that were for the software upgrade.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Any other questions from the committee? All right, I think we could take a motion on this particular decision in this budget.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like, I would approve administrative fees. I would move to approve administrative fees of $5.3 million in fiscal year '22 and $10.9 million in fiscal year '23 as delineated by Budget Amendment A214624821 to continue the funding of the replacement of the system's pension administration system and other various equipment costs, and also to issue a letter of intent requesting the system report to the Interim Retirement and Benefits Committee at its annual meeting the status of the system replacement.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Chair Carlton and a second from Senator Dennis. Do we have any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just make one comment, being someone who sat through the 15 hearings and heard all the comments about how PERS was in trouble and we had to do something to save it, and we've changed the system. We are now spending more money to change the system than if we had just provided the retirement benefits to those state employees at that time. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the history on that. That sounds, I don't know, sounds like maybe we could go back in time. We could, right? Having a motion and a second, any other discussion on the motion? I don't see any. So all in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. The motion passes unanimously, and we can move on to the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is item number 2. It's Decision Unit E225, and it relates to the request for 2 new positions. I would note that this decision unit requested a Chief Investment Officer position and a Chief Administrative Analyst position. However, on April 22nd, 2021, Budget Amendment A216634821 was submitted to reduce Decision Unit E225 by $178,287 in fiscal year 2022 and $174,263 in fiscal year 2023 to withdraw the system's request for a proposed Chief Administrative Analyst position. With regards to the Chief Investment Officer being requested, according to the system, over the past 15 years, Nevada PERS investment portfolio has grown from $18 billion in assets to more than $46.2 billion in assets. They currently have 1 investment officer who manages their portfolio. And for comparison purposes, the median public pension fund employs 1 investment professional for every $2.2 billion in assets. According to the agency, this position would reduce the risk associated with a single employee structure. It would also provide for succession planning, and it would help to ensure the underlying investment processes and philosophies are maintained within the PERS system. The system is recommending a salary of $189,222 for the Chief Investment Officer. By way of comparison, the existing investment officer is budgeted to receive $180,787 in each year of the biennium. The Chief Investment Officer, if approved, would oversee the existing investment officer position. At the hearing, it was discussed that there was, in fact, an assistant investment officer position previously in fiscal year 2015. However, that that assistant investment officer was reclassified to a chief financial officer. Currently, the chief financial officer does assist the investment officer, and in 2020, the CFO purchased approximately $13.8 billion of assets across the PERS portfolio for that particular year. During the hearing, the agency indicated that the salaries of the chief investment officer were one step above the investment officer position within the agency's internal salary scales. And just by comparison, the assistant investment officer that they had back in 2015 would have had a salary equivalent to what is now $165,030, which is a two-step below the investment officer currently. And again, the assistant investment officer, if it were reestablished, the system has requested that that position be only one step below the investment officer, which would be a salary of $172,909. It should be noted that if this position is approved, the chief financial or the chief investment officer or the assistant investment officer, NRS 286-160 provides the salaries of the executive staff within PERS are fixed by the PERS board and by the Interim Retirement and Benefits Committee. And so if these positions are approved, there would need to be an amendment or would need to be revised in order to account for those positions. And so the committee may wish to issue a committee BDR in order to effectuate that change. With respect to the chief administrative analyst, as I previously mentioned, there was a budget amendment that was submitted that withdraw the request of the chief administrative assistant, or excuse me, analyst position from this request. And that was based off of direction by the PERS board at its April 15th meeting. The board intended to prioritize the investment position, and so it withdrew the request for the chief administrative assistant position. There is still a little bit of information that we provided on page 9 with regards to the chief administrative assistant and that, or excuse me, analyst, and that position would have provided centralized and coordinated the pension administrative system implementation and reduced responsibilities on the senior management to oversee the pension administration system. As originally requested, the system was contemplating a salary of $137,516 in each year for that particular position. And so on page 10, there is a box at the top that identifies the three various decision components that are within this decision unit. And so each of these, the first two can be taken separately or independently, and then the third relates to the legislation that would be required if any of these positions are approved. So the first decision point with regard to the investment position is approve the chief investment officer position with a salary of $189,222 per year, as well as associated benefits and operating expenditures. Option B would be to approve an assistant investment officer. And then there's two different components to this in terms of salaries, with a salary of one grade below the existing investment officer of approximately $172,909 per year, as well as associated benefits and operating expenditures, or to choose a salary 2 grades below the existing investment officer position of $165,030 per year, as well as associated benefits and operating expenditures, or to not approve the new investment position. The second decision for this decision unit would be if, does the committee wish to approve Budget Amendment A2166-34821, which would withdraw the system's request for a new Chief Administrative Analyst position. And then finally, 3 would be if the committee approves 1A or 1B and/or decides not to approve Budget Amendment A216634-821, but rather approve the Chief Administrative Analyst position, does the committee wish to request a bill draft request to add the approved positions to NRS 286-160, which provides for the approval process of executive staff salaries for PERS. Fiscal staff requests authority to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Do we have any questions from the committee? All right, I do not see any, so I think we could take a motion.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've got multiple options here. So A is, since no one's going to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. So A is basically creating a new position. And we know when it comes to managing funds like this, how important these retirement funds are to make sure. And PERS has been criticized on a regular basis about not performing where people thought it should perform, such as my comment about 2015 earlier. So being able to establish this position under A and then do some succession planning. And we all need to start thinking about succession planning. We have a lot of folks moving through. Originally, I was leaning more towards B, but in conversations with the chair, I guess would go ahead and go with A, and then include the budget amendment. So if there's no other conversation, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make sure that folks understood kind of where we were going. It's a $10,000 difference. I know it's a very unique time to be doing something like this, but I believe as the system is changing and a new technology platform is being used and everything that's going to be going on, we want to make sure that we have the right people in place to deal with this, because this is the financial security for people who are going to be leaving state service in the future, and we want to make sure it's solid and not end up in a state where we have a bunch of retirees that can't afford to live, and we have another problem on that side. So, Mr. Chairman.
I appreciate that. I mean, this is a individual, and with someone coming up under them that will eventually take over when this individual retires, which seems like a lot of people are doing in the next couple of years. And this is a $46 billion portfolio that they manage, and so this is a very consequential position. So I'm glad to see that we're thinking about the future on this. So I appreciate your clarification, Chair Carlton. And so I have a motion for what would be option A under the first decision, with accepting of the budget amendment and the necessary BDR on 3 to make that happen, with technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
And I just need to clarify, I don't think we would need a BDR if we do. Okay, I'm just wanted to make sure. So with the BDR and the technical adjustments. Okay, thank you.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on that motion? Senator Severs-Gansert?
Thank you. Can you restate that motion? Thank you.
I will. So the motion is on page 10 in our summary of decisions. On decision 1, it is option A, approve the chief investment officer position with a salary of $189,222 per year, as well as associated benefits and operating expenditures, and to approve budget amendment A216634821, which would withdraw the system's request for a new chief administrative analyst position, and approve and to approve budget amendment and, oh man, you really got me wrapped around the axle. Thank you. 3. Go with 3 in the box. And technical adjustments as necessary.
Okay, thank you. And so just for clarification, so we need a bill draft to approve which positions then? So we're approving basically what was originally requested. We're accepting the withdrawal of the amendment, and then the purpose of the bill draft is 3.
Mr. Chair, may I clarify?
Oh, please do.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the BDR would be to provide that the Chief Investment Officer be included in NRS 286160, in addition to all of the other executive staff that is currently within that NRS. Their salaries are approved by the PERS board and then also by the interim Retirement and Benefits Committee. And so that change, that BDR would just bring that Chief Investment Officer position into that NRS as part of the executive staff that is also included in that.
Thank you. And by doing that, that puts them outside the normal cap of, yeah, okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And I'm sorry about that. I think I confused us with the budget amendment, approving it or not approving it. So we have a motion. It's been clarified by, we have Dr. Titus has a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to ask a question. I guess I should have asked this prior to even having the motion made, but not having a real breakdown on the need and what alternative we could have had, such as an investment analyst group or something else on this. I realize that it's a large sum of money. We need to be responsible for it, but the accountability and other options versus expanding our government and more positions, I always get nervous when the option is always to hire somebody else. So I'm going to be a no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Titus. And I recall robust discussion in full committee on this very topic and what the need was for that was laid out to us by the agency. And it might be in your notes from that committee meeting. But if you had any further questions to clarify that, I think we probably have staff available that can help. Senator Gansert?
Thank you for a second time. I'm going to support the motion because the pension plan has grown substantially, and I think it's got to be pretty overwhelming with the minimal staff that they have right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gansert. Do we have any other discussion? So we have a motion. It was clarified by Ms. Kaufman. We had a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All right. All in favor, aye. All in favor, all opposed, nay. Nay. And so we have Assemblywoman Titus is a nay. Everyone else is aye. And the motion passes, and we can move on to the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 11 begins the discussion of the statewide decision units. And the first decision unit is M100, statewide inflation. The majority of the budgets included in the executive budget include decision unit M100 to adjust expenditures for revised costs of internal services. The M100 decision unit recognizes rate changes and modifications to cost allocations and assessments. In the interest of time, I will only discuss in detail the GLs where adjustments are recommended. In terms of, on page 11 begins the personnel assessment. The personnel assessment represents an allocation of state agencies of the costs for recruiting, examining, and classifying and compensating individuals for training functions for the Division of Human Resource Management. There are no recommended adjustments to those rates. The payroll assessment is an allocation to state agencies for the costs of central payroll functions of the Division of Human Resource Management, and there are no recommended adjustments for that assessment. Monthly vehicle rental in-state is the Fleet Services Division charges agencies on a monthly basis for rental rates. Decision Unit M100 includes statewide decreases to the monthly fleet service vehicle rates of about $1.3 million in each year of the 2021-23 biennium, and there are no recommended changes to those rates. On page 12 is the employee bond. The employee bond assessment provides for loss caused by any fraudulent or dishonest acts committed by an employee, and there are no recommended changes for that GL. And property and content insurance, the property content insurance assessment reflects payments to the Risk Management Division to ensure state building and equipment, and there are no recommended adjustments to those rates. With regards to the vehicle comprehensive and collision insurance, the Risk Management Division charges state agencies for the provision of comprehensive and collision vehicle insurance based on the number of vehicles assigned to the agencies. Staff received revised information indicating a decrease in the total number of agency-owned vehicles receiving coverage from 6,740 vehicles in each year of the biennium to 6,614 vehicles in fiscal year 2022 and 6,623 vehicles in fiscal year 2023. Accordingly, staff recommends the vehicle comprehensive and collision rate be increased from $103.30 per vehicle to $105.20 per vehicle in each year of the 2021-23 biennium, which represents an average of both fiscal years. In the vehicle liability GL, the Office of the Attorney General charges state agencies for the provision of vehicle liability insurance based on the number of vehicles assigned to the agencies. Similar with the vehicle comprehensive and collision insurance, staff received revised information indicating a decrease in the total number of agency-owned vehicles receiving vehicle liability insurance coverage from 7,141 to 7,015 in 2022 and 7,058 let me repeat that, from 7,141 to 7,015 in fiscal year 2022, and from 7,058 to 6,921 in fiscal year 2023. Accordingly, the staff recommends vehicle liability rate be increased from $192.25 to $195.70 in fiscal year 2022, and from $194.51 to $197.76 in 2023. There are no recommended changes for the AG tort claims assessment, which provides self-insured insurance for the general liability claims. I would note on state-owned building rent, there was a significant discussion in the subcommittees related to the omission of rent for the Reno DMV office. However, that is offset by recommendations for the Cannabis Compliance Board and the Department of Taxation being relocated from the Grant Sawyer office to non-state-owned buildings, non-state-owned building space, and as such, upon further review, staff does not recommend changes to the governor's recommended state-owned office rent rates over the 2021-23 biennium. With regards to the purchasing assessment, the purchasing assessment represents an allocation of services provided by the purchasing division to state agencies, and there are no recommended adjustments to these assessments. And finally, the statewide cost allocation plan, or otherwise known as SWICAP, is an assessment that is used to recover an equitable share of central service costs, such as budgeting, accounting, and auditing from federal funds and other funds. I would note that the Subcommittee on Public Safety, Natural Resource, and Transportation approved the elimination of SWICAP expenditures of $312,639 in fiscal year 2022 and $324,031 in fiscal year 2023 as it relates to the prison industry's budget due to solvency issues that the budget was experiencing. And as such, staff would recommend a technical adjustment to reduce SWICAP by those associated amounts if the actions taken by the Subcommittee on the Public Safety and Natural Resource Transportation Subcommittee are approved by the full committees. And finally, I would just note that the Attorney General Cost Allocation Plan recovers costs provided for legal services to the state, and fiscal staff does not recommend any adjustments to that particular assessment. Does the committee wish to approve the adjustments proposed to the various rates and assessments as included in M100 statewide inflation decision units as adjusted for the changes to vehicle comprehensive and collision rates, vehicle liability insurance, and the statewide cost allocation plan as noted, and provide staff with the authority to make technical adjustments as necessary?
Thank you. Ms. Kaufman, do any of the committee members have any questions? All right. Go ahead, Chair Kaufman.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I would move to approve the adjustments proposed to the various rates and assessments included in the M100 statewide inflation decision unit as adjusted for the changes to the vehicle comprehensive and collision rate, vehicle liability insurance, and the statewide cost allocation plan as noted, and provide staff with all the authority they need to make any technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Chair Colleton, a second from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on the motion? I don't see any, so all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously with the members present, and we can move on to the EATS.
Good morning, everyone. Wayne Thorley, Fiscal Analysis Division. I feel like I'm in the penalty box here. I'm going to discuss the various changes to the Enterprise Information Technology Services, or EATS rates, that are recommended by the governor, and as well as some technical adjustments that are recommended by fiscal staff. Beginning on page 15 of the closing packet, the governor recommends rates for 24 EATS cost pools. Included in the cost pools are the two EATS assessments, one for the infrastructure assessment and the other is the security assessment, which are both per FTE assessments. Also included are the EATS two-tiered structure cost pools, web services and SilverNet. Web services are services provided for website and web application hosting. SilverNet is the state's wide area network, or WAN, that supports network and internet services for state agencies. Regarding the infrastructure assessment, the infrastructure assessment funds the EATS division's global services, including help desk, web page development, and other centralized services. The governor recommends increasing the infrastructure assessment from $276.59 in FY21 to $324.35 in each year of the biennium. And again, this is a per FTE rate. The recommended infrastructure assessment was identified to be inflated due to the utilization of the agency request budget to develop the rate, which included enhancement decision units that were not included ultimately in the executive budget. Fiscal staff worked with the agency to adjust the assessment. As a result of this review, The assessment would be adjusted to $321 in FY '22 and $316.79 in FY '23. This represents a decrease from the amount recommended by the governor in each year of the upcoming biennium. Regarding the security assessment, which is used to fund the State Information Security Program, again, this is a per FTE assessment. The governor recommends increasing the security assessment from $115.88 in FY '22, FY '21, apologies, to $127.57. And in FY '22, and $127.32 in FY '23. Similar to the infrastructure assessment, the security assessment was inflated in the executive budget. Staff worked with the agency to make an adjustment to the security assessment. As a result of this review, the security assessment would be adjusted down to $95.44 in FY '22 and $94.19 in FY '23. The remainder of page 16 of your closing packet provides a brief discussion of the closing recommendations that came out of the subcommittee on April 22nd when the EATS budgets were closed. The subcommittee recommended various changes to the cost pools and labor distributions. If you turn to page 17 of the closing packet, the top half of the page contains a table that lists all the EATS assessments and other services that EATS provides, as well as what the rates were in the governor's recommended budget, and then the updated rates as recommended by staff for technical adjustments, or as recommended by the subcommittee as a result of the subcommittee closing. Do the committees wish to approve the adjustments proposed to the various rates and assessments for the Enterprise Information Technology Services Division as detailed in the table on page 17? If so, staff requests authority to make technical adjustments as necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Do we have any questions from the committee on the Enterprise Information Technology Services statewide adjustments? All right, I don't see any. Chair Carlton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So apparently EATS eats a lot of money here. So with that, everybody's still asleep. It's Monday morning. You know, as I'm looking through this list, I don't see the word COBOL, so I would be happy to make the motion to approve the adjustments proposed to the various rates and assessments for Enterprise Information and Technology Services as detailed in the table, and give staff the authority to make any technical adjustments as necessary. If they understand it, they're doing better than I am. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Thank you, Chair Carlton, for that motion, and a second from Senator Dennis. Do I have any discussion on the motion? I do not see any, so all in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? And the motion carries or passes unanimously with the members present, and we can move on to the M300 fringe benefit rate adjustments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The M300 fringe benefit rate adjustments includes adjustment expenditures for the revised cost of fringe benefits for state employees. The workers' compensation assessment, PERS contribution rates, and labor relations unit assessments are all recommended to be maintained as recommended by the governor. In terms of, on page 18, I would note that the group insurance rates are provided. The preliminary rates for the 2021-23 biennium are as follows. So for the active employee group insurance for fiscal year 2022 is $727, and for fiscal year 2023 is $755. For the retired employee group insurance for fiscal year 2022 is $471.50, and for fiscal year 2023 is $498. Since the closing for the Public Employees Benefit Program budget was deferred by the committee on May 1st, the committee may wish or the committee should only preliminarily approve the AGIS and the REGI components of the M300 decision unit, contingent upon the closure or the closing of the PEB budgets at a later date. And so, does the committee, I'm sorry, I skipped the unemployment compensation, GL. That is recommended to be maintained as recommended by the governor. Does the committee wish to approve decision unit M300 fringe benefit rate adjustments preliminarily with the approval of the active employee group insurance, AGIS, or the retired employee group insurance, REGI rates, and provide staff with authority to make technical adjustments as necessary?
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Do we have any questions from the committee on this decision unit? Oh, Assemblyman Haven.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification on the unemployment compensation, I think you said we're leaving that the same and that was not changing, but I think in the backup it shows that there's a minor decrease. I might be misreading it. I apologize.
For the record, Sarah Kaufman, Legislative Council, that is correct. There is a decrease, but it's recommended by the governor, and so staff is not recommending any adjustments to what was preliminarily recommended by the governor. That makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Do we have any other questions or comments on this decision unit? I do not see any, so I could take a motion.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve decision unit M300 fringe benefits rate adjustments rates with preliminary approval of the AGIS, the active employee group insurance, and retired employee group insurance, and provide staff with the authority to make any technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Chair Collerton, a second from Senator Dennis. And do I have any discussion on the motion? I do not see any, so all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. And the motion passes unanimously with the members present. And we can move on to our last statewide decision, general fund reductions. And if Mr. Thorley, I believe that's you, if you want to walk us through that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Wayne Thorley, LCB Fiscal. As the committee members are aware, the executive budget, as recommended by the governor, included various budget reductions in order to align expenditures with the general fund revenue forecast by the Economic Forum at the December 3rd, 2020 meeting. These budget reductions are generally included in the executive budget as decision units E680 through 685 or E686 through 699. As the various subcommittees and the full committees have reviewed the budget, you've seen these decision units for budget reductions in various places throughout the budget. In total, the governor recommends general fund reductions of $564.3 million over the 21-23 biennium. That breaks out as $332 million in FY22 and $232.3 million in FY23. Of the total general fund reductions recommended by the governor in the executive budget, just under $100 million is achieved through using other offsetting funding sources in lieu of general funds to fund the program expenses, or by funding certain FY22 program expenses in FY21, thereby reducing general fund expenses in FY22. The balance of recommended general fund reduction after removing that approximately $100 million is $465.4 million over the biennium of general fund reduction recommended by the governor. This is primarily accomplished by recommending to hold positions vacant or eliminate positions for all or a portion of the upcoming biennium, or reducing or eliminating direct services. On page 20 of your closing packet, you can see the recommended budget reductions, general fund budget reductions by functional area that are included in the executive budget. As the committee members may recall, on April 1st, a presentation was provided to the committee, and preliminary approval was granted to approve the elimination of general funds and other funds as recommended by the governor for 307.57 FTE positions that are recommended by the governor to be eliminated or held vacant in the upcoming biennium, and based on 12 days of furlough leave in each year of the upcoming biennium for the Legislative Council Bureau. This preliminary action taken by the money committees generated total savings of $25.2 million in FY22 and $6.4 million in FY23. In conjunction with that preliminary approval to approve those budget reduction decision units, the money committees also preliminarily approved restoring funding for those positions with coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, which are part of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARP. The authorization was provided for $14.8 million in FY22 and $5.3 million in FY23 to fund an estimated 307.57 positions. Again, these were positions that were recommended to be held vacant or eliminated in the executive budget for budget reduction purposes. A summary of the decision units that recommend budget reductions by holding positions vacant or eliminating positions is provided in attachment A of your packet. This table may look familiar to you. It was provided a month ago at the April 1st meeting. Since that time, fiscal staff has worked with the governor's finance office and the various agencies to refine the estimates in this table, both the estimates for the number of FTE positions for which funding would be restored, but also the dollar amount of American Rescue Plan Act funds that would be needed to fund these positions. I'll call your attention to a few of the changes that are included on this table in attachment A and that are different than the table that was provided on April 1st. First of all, two positions were identified that were included in the original preliminary approval that are positions that are recommended to be eliminated for efficiency purposes and not for budget reduction purposes. One position was with the Division of Human Resource Management, and another one is with GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Both those positions were not recommended to be eliminated for budget reduction purposes, so they have been removed from the table in attachment A. As a result, if you look on page 22 of the closing packet, if you go to the very bottom line, the grand total line, and then move over to column G, which contains the total number of FTE, you'll see the FTE count has been reduced to 305.57 FTE. This is a 2 FTE reduction from what was presented to the committees on April 1st. And that reduction, again, is as a result of the two positions that are recommended for elimination for efficiency purposes. Staff has also made various technical adjustments to the dollar amount, both for the recommended savings due to the eliminations, and also the recommended amount of American Rescue Plan Act funds that would be needed to restore funding for those positions. A explanation of those adjustments is found in the bullet points on the bottom of page 20 and on the top of page 21. Very briefly, staff identified where some of the recommendations for position eliminations had elimination start dates that were not at the beginning of the fiscal year, and the positions are already vacant, so the savings would be would be banked earlier than what's recommended in the executive budget. Those changes as a result, one was in the Department of Taxation for 7 positions that were originally recommended to be eliminated, and another technical adjustment was made to various DCNR budgets for 21 positions. Those technical adjustments have been included in the table and on attachment A. On page 22, the summary table, if you look at columns J, K, and L, these are the columns that are shaded in gray. These columns identify the amount of American Rescue Plan Act funding that would be needed to restore funding for the 305.7 FTE positions over the upcoming biennium. The committee may remember during the discussion on April 1st, what was preliminarily approved was funding in the first fiscal year of the biennium, FY22, to be 75% of the full cost for those positions. And the reason for that was to account for an October 1st, so 3 months into the fiscal year, start date for funding authorized for these positions. The reason for that was in the guidance from the federal government regarding the eligible uses of the American Rescue Plan Act funding had not been received at that time and still has not been received. So that additional timing or that delay was built into the recommendation to allow us to receive the guidance and to review the guidance and to ensure that the guidance indicates that an eligible use of the ARP funding is for funding positions. So in column J, if you go down to the bottom, you'll see that $14.6 million of ARP funding would be needed to restore funding for these 305.7 FTE positions in FY22. And again, this represents 75% of the cost needed to fund those positions. And in FY23, $4.7 million of ARP funding would be needed to restore funding for these positions, for a total biennium cost of $19.3 million to fund these positions. Lastly, on page 21, you'll see a brief discussion regarding three positions in the DPBH Environmental Health Services budget. In order to guarantee solvency in that budget, the governor had recommended the elimination of those positions. During the budget closing on the subcommittee closing, April 29th, I'm sorry, the full committee closing. No, this is the subcommittee closing, sorry. The subcommittee recommended approval of the position eliminations to ensure solvency of the budget. However, the subcommittee also recommended that the full committees preliminarily approve authorizing expenditure of ARP funding to fund those 3 positions, again, effective October 1st with that delayed funding date, in order to allow those positions to continue to be funded in the Environmental Health Services budget. The decision for this committees today is in the gray box on the bottom of page 21. Do the committees wish to rescind the previous action to restore an administrative assistant position in the DHRM budget and a non-classified position in the GOED budget, representing total funding of $87,646 in FY22 and $119,542 in FY23, and provide staff with authority to adjust the number of positions restored based on possible actions taken by the committees in closing budget accounts that are still pending review. Again, if approved, a total of 305.7 FTE positions recommended to be held vacant or eliminated would have been restored by the committees, as well as 9 furlough days in FY22 and 12 furlough days in FY23 for LCB staff. And do the committees wish to approve the restoration of funding for 3 positions in the Environmental Health Services budget, which I just mentioned, which would require authorization, ARP funding authorization of $156,770 in FY22 and $218,380 in FY23, all contingent on the guidance from the federal government indicating that funding positions as an authorized use of the ARP funds, and fiscal staff would seek authority to make both the noted technical adjustments and any other technical adjustments necessary. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee might have about this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. This is complicated, and there's a lot of moving parts still out there. The legislation passed in, I think, 7 weeks ago tomorrow, and we still are waiting on guidance, but we know that that money will be coming and will be coming through the general fund, and how it can be spent and on what positions that provide services for Nevadans is still yet to be determined, but I think this is a safe and conservative approach. Do we have any questions from the committee members? Mr. Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question, just so, let's say on the off chance that the guidance comes out and it won't allow approval for use of the money for these positions, then what would happen based on a decision that we did today? They would just remain vacant as we had planned in the budget process?
Assemblyman Roberts, that is correct. So the motion is a two-part motion, both to approve the elimination of funding for these positions as recommended in the executive budget, and then to approve the authorization for use of the ARP funding. If it's ultimately determined that the ARP funding cannot be used to fund these positions, then the first part of that motion to approve the elimination of funding for these positions will carry through, and the positions just they will not be funded in the upcoming biennium.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answers.
Assemblywoman Tolles?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I just see on page 20, we have listed out some of the various proposed cuts, including 191 in each year, 191 million to education, but I don't see education anywhere on the charts on pages 22 through 24. Is that because we didn't have any position eliminations, or could you just walk me through that? Thanks.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Tolles, and thanks for the question, and I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. So you're exactly right. The table on the top of page 20 includes every budget reduction proposed in the executive budget for general fund savings, both position eliminations and cuts to program funding. So if you referenced the education, the 191.4 million, you're correct. There were no positions recommended to be eliminated in the education function area for budget reduction purposes, specifically talking about K-12 education. But the 191.4 million is our program cuts, not position cuts. So you won't see education in the table on attachment A. So again, the table on the top of page 20 is the total amount of general fund reductions recommended in the executive budget, both general fund reductions related to holding positions vacant or eliminating positions, and general fund reductions related to cutting funding for programs.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, so, and Mr. Thorley, that education line is specifically K-12, just to make sure the record's clear?
It includes, the education function area includes all of education, K-12 and NSHE. My comment about there not being positions recommended for elimination in education was specific to the K-12 budgets.
And thank you, Mr. Thorley, and just so that the record is perfectly clear, we have to remember how much money K-12 has gotten outside of this building. ESSER 1, ESSER 2, GEAR, the higher education funding 1, higher education funding number 2. So yes, these are general fund dollars, but there are federal dollars that have come in over the last 18 months to support a lot of these programs. So I just don't want the tweet to be out there as we leave this room to be that Democrats cut $191 million from education, because that is not true. there have been a lot of other federal dollars coming into the state to support education. So I just want to make sure that our record is explicitly clear on that point with all those other monies that are coming in. And we're still having the conversation in the K-12 higher ed subcommittee on how all those dollars will be distributed outside the formula and inside the formula, and whatever the new formula is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the latitude. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chair Carlton. Yeah, I think it is incredibly important that we note just in this, and this interim and then in this legislative session, far more monies have been approved and allocated to education as a whole than what is reflected in this general fund reduction for education as a whole. And so, I mean, it's on a year over year, there's more money actually going to education, K through 12 and higher ed as a result of some of the federal actions than the year before. And so I really appreciate you bringing that up because that gets lost in the mix sometimes when we just look at general fund reductions. Any further questions from the committee? Senator Severs-Gansert?
Thank you, Chair Brooks. I just want to go back to the positions that were recommended for elimination or to be held vacant. And so it sounded like staff went through and talked to the different agencies, the different departments to make sure that these were positions that they needed versus ones so that they were, the difference between they were cutting because they no longer needed them versus cutting because they were trying to make their budget.
That is correct.
And so with that, there were two that were removed from this. So we went from 307 roughly to 305.
Yes, that is correct, Senator.
But these are all positions that are expected to be needed, not cut because they no longer require those positions.
Correct. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal. Senator Severs-Gansert, the 305.57 FTE represents a total number of positions recommended to be cut for budget reduction purposes.
Okay, thank you. And did we already have a motion? We're not to a motion yet? Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may clarify one thing that I should have made clearer. The table on the top of page 20 of your closing packet, that is provided for informational purposes only. The motion of from the committees today will not be to approve all the budget reductions included in the executive budget. The various subcommittees have been working through those throughout the month of April during the closing process, and the full committees also. The recommendation or the motion today for the committee will be to approve only those budget reductions related to positions.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley, but I appreciate staff including that table in this for the purposes of context when we're talking about, you know, what the overall picture looks like as we're making these decisions. And thank you, Senator Severs-Gansert, because I think that's incredibly important that we note that this isn't, these positions, except for the two, weren't being eliminated for efficiency's sake. They were being eliminated to try to achieve some budget savings, and they still are very needed to provide services for the state. So I appreciate that clarifying question. Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee members, excuse me? All right. So now we will take this, and I will not mess this one up. Chair Carlton is going to do this.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
We'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move to rescind the previous action to restore an administrative assistant position in the Division of Human Resource Management and a non-classified position in the Governor's Office of Economic Development, representing total funding of $87,646 in fiscal year '22 and $119,542 in fiscal year '23, and provide staff authority to adjust the number of positions restored based on possible actions taken by the committee in closing budget accounts pending review. I would also move to approve a total of 305 positions recommended to be held vacant or eliminated and to have been restored by the committees, as well as 9 furlough days in '22 and 12 furlough days in '23 for staff of the LCB. And I would also wish to approve the restoration of funding for 3 positions in the Environmental Health Services budget beginning October of '21 with American Rescue Plan Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, authorizations of $156,770 in fiscal year '22 and $218,380 in fiscal year '23, and of course, allow staff to make any the noted technical adjustments and any other technical adjustments as necessary.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Chair Carlton, a second from Senator Dennis. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Chair Carlton?
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the one thing we didn't quite delineate was any other accounts pending review. We've noticed in a couple of the subcommittees that we found some positions that weren't in the classifications that were pulled out under the April 1st discussion. And that's where you see the environmental specialist. There, we may, in closing budgets continuing over this next week or so, find a couple of more, and we just wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to address those positions individually as we move forward through all these budget closings. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chair Carlton. We have Senator Gansert, Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. So I'm going to support the motion. I appreciate staff having gone through the various accounts to make sure that these were positions that were required for ongoing business. I also appreciate that the majority of these are in Health and Human Services and that we've got a lot of work to do there. So thank you.
All right, do we have any other discussion or questions on the motion? And again, I just clarifying that this is based upon federal guidance on how these positions can be filled. So I see no other questions or comments on the motion. So all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Nay. And that's Assemblywoman Titus is a nay. And so the motion passes with all the members present. And that brings us to the end of our budgets that we are looking at today. And thank you, Mr. Thorley. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Appreciate it this morning. And we can move to our last item, which is public comment. And broadcast services, can you see if we have any public comment on the line? And I do not see anyone in the audience to make public comment here in person. So we'll go to the phones.
Thank you, Chair. We are currently on public comment. If you have recently joined the call and would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 837. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
This is Kent Irvin, K-E-N-T-E-R-V-I-N, for the Nevada Faculty Alliance. Good morning. About 15% of NSHE faculty and all of our classified colleagues are members of the Public Employees Retirement System, PERS. We are very pleased that PERS is being run well, both administratively and its investments, with very low expenses and staffing. PERS has established a rigorous process for reviewing its actuarial assumptions, including a periodical actuarial audit by an independent actuary, last done in 2018. The other trust fund for state employee benefits is the Public Employees Benefits Program for healthcare insurance. PEB has employed the same actuarial firm for decades to set rates and reserves, but has never done an independent actuarial audit. For the past 10 years, excess reserves of tens of millions of dollars have accumulated at PEB each year, despite plans each biennium to spend the excess down to zero. As of March 31st, the end of fiscal year excess is forecast to be up to $35 million, partly due to employee premiums being increased by up to 42% from FY 2020 to fiscal year 2021 this year. Given the long-term problems with excess reserves at PEB, which is really accumulated profit in a nonprofit program, it would be prudent for PEB to get a second opinion on its rate-setting methods and assumptions. A request for information issued by PEB last year indicated the cost of such an audit would be about $100,000. That is a nominal cost to ensure that the state employee funds are being used as efficiently as possible. But PEB declined to go ahead to do the audit while increasing the budget for its current actuary. When you close the PEB budgets, hopefully using the current excess reserves to restore benefits for FY22 pending receipt of American Rescue Plan funds, PEB should be instructed by the legislature to complete an actuarial audit. Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 832, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you and good morning. My name for the record is Terry Laird, spelled Terrilaird. I'm the Executive Director for the Retired Public Employees of Nevada, a nonprofit organization founded in 1976 by a small group of retired public employees who felt they had no one to protect them once they'd left their public service careers. We've grown to nearly 8,000 dues-paying members, and our mission is still the same, to protect the pensions and health care benefits earned while they were working. We are happy to hear the actions taken and testimony given today that recognizes the value of protecting PERS, a fund, as you heard, that's grown to $46 billion. PERS is the lifeblood of all of our retired members and is the only pension they receive in light of the fact that the state of Nevada is one of a handful of states that do not pay into Social Security. So on behalf of our PEN and our nearly 8,000 members, we thank the committee for your support that recognizes the great importance of this fund and to all those who benefit from it, both while working and once they've retired. In addition, I'd like to give a ditto to remarks from the previous speaker, Kent Urban, for his remarks relating to PEB, the Public Employees Benefits Program, as we still await the closing for that budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There are no additional public comment callers at this time.
Thank you. So that brings our meeting to an end today, and this meeting is adjourned.